ride or die. I keep waving my
Okay, Matt, welcome to Space Pirate Radio, Lockdown Edition. How you going?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, didn't have much else on, so happy to be here.
Yeah, so it's day, I'm not sure what we're in now, actually, in Sydney. It's probably about a week we've been locked down, and you guys are going, you're in Brisbane doing a little mini one at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, we've just got our little taste test, a little 3-dayer. So it's supposed to finish at about 6 p.m. on Friday, and fingers crossed too, so I can actually get to work on the weekend. That'd be nice.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. It should be all right up in Brisbane, right? I think.
Yeah, I think I saw last night there was a few more cases that had come up, and one of the original problem people was actually someone that worked at the hospital like 2 blocks from here, the one that my girlfriend works at. She was they kept saying she was a receptionist, but she was working in the COVID testing unit, which when you called me last week to tee this up is exactly where I was sitting, in that COVID testing unit where
right.
She was probably kicking around. So yeah, I think I had maybe a brush with a famous person there.
What better place to get COVID than at a COVID testing?
Yeah, the irony. Only in Brisbane too.
Yeah.
Would they be so relaxed to let that happen?
Yeah. So Matt, I gave you a call last week, obviously to tee up things for today. But it's been a while since we chatted last, right? It's probably been a few years, yeah.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. Well, we did Hot Valley Nights. We did principal photography for that. When was that? 2017?
Yeah, it was actually 2016. I remember because we were shooting the gym scene just before the hipster murder scene, right when Conor McGregor was fighting Eddie Alvarez in the UFC lightweight championship, and all the guys were like on the phones during the shoot watching watching the fight. So that's how I remember that. So that was right at the end of 2016. So we probably wrapped, maybe the last little bit was 2017. Yeah, but right at the start of the year. Yeah. Yeah, so it's been a little while. I've been a little while since then, but I got to spend 6 weeks in the Lucid office with you guys because I just finished up my marketing degree, and I'd come in for the audition for Hot Valley Nights, and I'd noticed, I was looking around, I was like, this looks like some sort of marketing agency. I thought, how perfect. I'm just finishing up my degree. I'm looking for some sort of internship. And just ask, and you guys got me in the office for 6 weeks there. It's where I got to help out with a few things with Hot Valley Nights, but also just learn a lot about digital marketing and that kind of stuff. Yeah, we gave you.
It has been a little while. That feels like a lifetime ago.
It does actually. I mean, I guess I was sort of living, like I had the edit, and I was sort of living with that, and then the various iterations of the show, and then obviously pitching it. So I sort of, was kind of living with it for longer. That everybody just sort of went on their way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seems so long ago now. And so now, but so just to give people a little bit of background. So you auditioned. So you played Jeff Purple, Constable Jeff Purple, the bike cop. The name changed, didn't it? Actually.
Yeah, it did. I don't remember what the original name was, but I got handed the name badge and was like, that's not. It was like, all right, that's fine. It's Jeff Purple now. That's what ended up on the name badge. So that's who I was.
Yeah, I can't remember what the actual name was now, but we had to go to this specialist costume place down in Melbourne or something, because that was the only place you could get relatively realistic looking cop uniforms, and the only name tag we could get was Jeff Purple. So you became Jeff Purple, right?
And that episode's out. I don't know when the podcast is dropping, but it's coming out tomorrow, isn't it? The bike cops.
No, it's actually coming out today. Yeah, in a few hours.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. So, but you came across the project and auditioned, and you'd been doing work with your group. Is the Miscreants an improv group as well as, like, I know that you do your own written stuff. How would you describe what it is?
We've only just started actually doing a bit of improv work. So we've been doing a few. We had one this Friday actually, but we had to cancel it because of the COVID. But we do this show called Late Lines, where it's sort of organised by mainly by Henry Bretts. He's the stand-up comedy mastermind in our group, and he'll sort of play it's like a late night news spoof where we bring characters on and do like semi-improvisational sketches surrounding what's been going on in the news or some sort of local story. So last time we had a character on where he interviewed a South African mum from Kenmore, which if you're familiar with Brisbane stereotypes, it's certainly a type. And a lot of interesting jokes about the whole QAnon thing. It was happening all around the the 6th of January, and so we were gearing up to do another one of them this Friday. But that's sort of the only improv work we'd sort of approached. We generally are very, very scripted and rehearsed, but by rehearsing and scripting everything, it gives us a lot more space when we're on stage to find gaps to add new stuff in. So, but because when everybody is 100% with what's going on, it becomes a lot easier to find spaces and gaps to actually add improv in, because everyone just feels a lot more comfortable,
So how would you describe? Is it like a surrealist comedy? Like, how do you describe what the Miscreants is?
Yeah, it's sort of like a surrealist comedy theatre company, I guess you could say, because we haven't really approached much screen stuff for quite a while, and we've just sort of leaned into the theatre stuff. So we'll do like 3 short plays across a night, with a few interstitial bits of like of filmed stuff thrown up on the AV. So we do have a few sketches, a few filmed sketches out there, but we just like telling interesting stories with a bit of a supernatural bent. They're always incredibly surreal, and it's just, I think, 4 creatives that just mesh really, really well together with this surreal stuff, where we feed off each other's energy, and what some of us might be good at, the others sort of what some of us might not be so good at, the others will pick up where pick up our weaknesses, and we all sort of mesh together in a really tight unit that's made some really funny stuff, and we've got such a dedicated audience too, because when we first started, I kind of looked around in Brisbane and felt like no one was really doing that kind of stuff, ticking that sort of box. So it felt like there was a gap there for us to make comedy that we wanted to watch, for one. And we've gradually found a bit of an audience who will, show up to absolutely every single show. They grab the t-shirts and the caps, and it becomes something that's important to them. And that's sort of what I really like getting out of it, is giving something, I guess, kind of special to an audience, something that they can. It's not like, oh, absolutely everybody is loving this one thing and I love it too. I've got some sort of special community that I'm a part of,
Yeah, and doing the live shows just means that you're able to connect with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love coming out afterwards and, having a beer and having a chat. And the foyer after a theatre show is typically one of the most uncomfortable places. If you ask any sort of theatre performer, it's like hell, because it's like, what do you say to people? It always feels so awkward, because you've just gone on stage and sort of, I mean, depending on the role, you might have just bared your whole soul to them, and then you've got to walk out and sip your vodka lime soda, and everyone's like, oh, great work, mate, which they'd say even if they hated it. And that's what's going on in the back of your mind. But you've just got to be grateful, you know, that they're showing some form of appreciation. But I love the foyer at the Miscreants shows. That it's always a much different vibe, and it's nice being able to control it as well. You know, we're playing the music that we want to listen to, and we're encouraging the energy that we want to be a part of, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. And so you were able to do shows all throughout last year in Brizzy?
What did we do last year? Well, we have been pretty quiet lately because we've sort of found other avenues of creative work. I'm hoping to get back on stage towards the end of this year. Find a space here in Brisbane, a bigger space than what we've had previously, and just really run at it. That's sort of what I'd like to have planned for the end of the year. After I finish with working on Othello, I think we'll be in a good position to start talking about getting things back on stage. But yeah, we did lose a bit of momentum there for a bit. We attempted when the pandemic first sort of hit, we built a website and we attempted to get into sort of writing spoof articles, you know, like The Onion and the Batuta Advocate, that kind of format, and that kept us busy for 3 or 4 weeks, and it was a really good way to get nice engagement with our audience. But at the end of the day, I just don't think it wasn't what we wanted to do. We're more performers, and we like to engage quite directly with an audience.
Yeah, that's the issue when you're doing stuff online and you have to create content ongoing, and if you're doing a show, or if you're doing like a web series or something like that, like that's a pretty big endeavor, and you can only do it so often, right? Like we were, I had an idea with, like, we're coming up to the end of all of our episodes for Hot Valley Nights today. It'll be this podcast will come out after that, but and so then you have to think about, okay, well, we're writing and we will produce more episodes, so you got to think about what we do in the meantime. I had an idea where I wanted to do a Danny Young audio book on his sort of semi-autobiographical, but also business tips, but in a in a psychotic Danny Young kind of voice. I read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, but I also bought the audio book. Have you read that, or have you seen?
I've seen it around. It's been on my list. What did you think?
Like, when I read the book, I enjoyed it, but I bought the audio book. So when I read the book, I was imagining Matthew McConaughey, his voice as I was reading the book. But then when I actually bought the audio book, it was way more over the top than I could have ever imagined. Like, it was just too much of a performance. So I wanted to do that with Danny Young channeling a bit of Matthew McConaughey, just over the top and ridiculous. But yeah. I thought that would be a fun way to do some content in between for the YouTube channel. Pretty easy to do.
Yeah. Those sorts of things are great because you don't need to spend 3 weeks in pre-production, and yeah, you can sort of get it together on the fly.
Yeah, and some of the scenes, I think back to that. You probably weren't even there when we shot the gym, right?
No, I didn't make it to the gym.
No. That was a huge scene that got cut. We had a whole gym that was shut down, that we had all these people in there, and we had to light this CrossFit gym in the valley. took a whole afternoon to do. You know, but I mean, like, there are some pretty big scenes with lots of people and stuff in Hot Valley Nights, but even just a scene with a couple of people, it's still a big endeavor to kind of pull all that stuff together. So you guys don't think you think you'll, from this point on, it's more the live stuff. Would you do, like, you know, stuff like your YouTube channel? You were doing stuff for that as well before.
Yeah. I think the filming stuff is it's definitely, you know, never say never, I guess, for stuff like that. But at the moment, I think it just fits us all. It just fits us all a lot better to be doing these live shows. I've got a terrible habit of saying yes to absolutely everything. So I'll be like, yes, we'll film stuff, and then yes, we'll do this, and yes, we'll do that. But then I just get into this analysis paralysis mode where, you know, not much will get done. So I think for my own sake, focusing on the Miscreants as that sort of live production company, it helps me a lot as a creative to sort of separate, to be like, okay, I've got my Miscreants hat on now. Here's what I've got to do. And then to do like more video, more sketch content, I think if I was to approach that again, I might start, you know, a different sort of name, a different sort of brand.
Yeah.
To approach that with.
Yeah. So was this where you were sort of thinking about doing something with TikTok? Yeah, is that?
Yeah. That's sort of what I've been thinking about there. You know, taking, because what I love about TikTok is that you really don't need to put all that much effort into the costumes and the design, and when all of that sort of stuff isn't perfect for our stage productions, it can kind of wear on you, and you want to keep working to make it perfect. Where TikTok, there's this leniency that it doesn't need to be like that. So I think my perfectionist brain works a bit better in that way, because it's like, oh, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason sort of bottling up all of these ideas for no one to ever see. It's as if they never existed in the first place, you know. So maybe an imperfect iteration sent out there for people to actually see and to actually enjoy is better than sitting on my hands and sort of waiting for the perfect opportunity to create.
Yeah, it's a good way to test ideas pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be an interesting journey, because a lot of TikTok creators are producing just huge amounts of content, like 30 videos a day, and you don't know how much of that is actually helping them in the algorithm, or helping them, you know, as we sort of discussed on the phone last week, that inch by inch gathering of followers to sort of gradually construct an audience. So that's something that's going to be interesting to play around with.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Auntie Donna last week, right? And they've got so much content that they produced over the years. I wonder what their numbers were like at the start, because you go back, like I went back and I was checking out some of their really early stuff, and obviously now they've got heaps of views, but I guess you kind of reach a critical mass at some point with that, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, you'd reach a critical mass where sort of no matter what, a certain amount of people are going to be seeing your content.
Yeah, with those subscribers, you know, once you get to, I mean, I think they've got 400 or like almost 500,000 subscribers. So you know, just the subscribers alone would be getting them huge views. But then it's all the other people that get recommended.
Yeah.
Like they're getting like 1.6 million views and stuff like that now for a video. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Were you into Vine back in the day? Like,
In what, sorry?
were you into Vine back when it was a thing?
No, I missed Vine. I was definitely the right age, but yeah, I totally missed it. Nowadays, I'll go back and watch a few Vine compilations.
Yeah.
It's like they've taken all the good stuff and then, cut out all the BS and just strung it all together on YouTube. Because that's where a few great creators started there. Bo Burnham has so many really, really good Vines.
Right, yeah.
And you can see how Vine sort of evolved into TikTok.
Yeah, I find it's so interesting how they're so different, but I don't know why TikTok has evolved into what it has, like.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't remember the format of Vine, whether it was the constant scroll that TikTok has or, like Instagram Reels has. But I think that is a real, I don't know, but part of me wants to say trap.
Yeah. Yeah, the For You page is so different, right? Like, Sorry, the For You page makes it different, right? Like, Vine was kind of like
so you've got
Twitter.
Yeah, that's it. Was like just followers and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, on TikTok you got your following section and then your For You page. Yeah,
It's I should just rewind it back a second there. You just casually dropped in Othello, so we should for people who are listening or watching. So now you've just landed a major role in Queensland Theatre Company, right? Is that right? Yep.
Yeah. Queensland Theatre are doing a production of Othello. It's sort of been in the works since pre-COVID, and it's finally going to be getting up on its feet. So we start rehearsals in about 2 weeks, actually.
Yep.
And then,
exciting.
Yeah, six weeks of rehearsals, and then we get to spend 2 weeks in sunny, beautiful Cairns, which should be beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, this is peak season, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
usually anyway.
You go there during summer, and it's like you walk outside, and it's like you've been wrapped in a hot blanket. It's it's so hot and humid and tropical, and yeah. So you want to go there in winter or the cooler months at least.
Yep. Yeah. So that's that was on hold for a little bit, was it, last year?
Yeah. So we were 2021. We were supposed to be in the QT season, so we were going to be going up at the Billy Brown Theatre there on Montague Road, and then COVID happened, everything got put on hold, and then the season for 2020. Oh, sorry, we were supposed to be in the 2020 season. The season for 2021 gets announced, and we've been placed in a development role. So we're going to be developing the production and then performing it at KIAF. Let me just double check that I'm saying that right before I... Yeah, so we're performing it at KIAF, the Cairns Indigenous Arts Festival, at Boombajar, the performing arts space there. And it's 1 week of performances. And it's going to be... I'm really interested to see how it's sort of received, because it's set in Cairns for a portion of it. So we start off in Cairns. My character, Roderigo, he's sort of the secondary antagonist. I get to play one of the bad guys, which is always fun. He's a young cane farmer, sort of comes from a bit of a cane oligarchy, I guess, a cane lineage of cane farmers, and he ends up selling a bunch of his property because Iago sort of tells him to. Iago is like the big I don't want to say bad guy. I don't like sort of characterizing characters as villains and heroes because it kind of makes them a little bit more boring, to look at them through that lens. They're doing things for a reason. So, but Iago is one of the most famously. He's one of the hardest characters to read in all of Shakespeare's canon. He never really says why he does what he's doing. So that gives the actor so much space to fill, and I'm really excited to see what Andrew Buchanan, he's going to be playing that role. I'm excited to see what he brings to it. So it's set in Cairns for a portion of it, and then they all trolley off on the boats to Thursday Island. It's going to be a really great production. I got to get into the costume room the other day and try on a few Akubras, try on a few cowboy hats, and none of them fit me because I've got a head the size of a melon. So they've got to go to the hatters to get to find one big enough.
I don't remember your head being especially melon-esque, but
it's gotten bigger. Right, trust me.
Yeah, since you got the role, since you got cast.
Yeah. It's been great for my ego.
So it's a bit of a different take. So what era is it set in? Is it a little bit of a period piece or? Yeah,
traditionally it's set in the I'm pretty sure it's the 16th century, but we're setting it in 1940.
Yep.
So it's during the war, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So the reason that they have to go to Thursday Island is to sort of defend Australia. They have to, there's people coming from the north, and they need to get up there to defend Australia. And the reason why Roderigo sort of follows is because Othello has just married Desdemona, who's the lady that I love dearly, and I'm very upset that Othello has taken my lady. So, but I haven't given up hope. So I have sold my land after Iago told me to, and I'm getting on a boat and I'm going to follow them and I'm going to win my lady back.
Yeah, cool. So is this? I mean, it's. Have you done much Shakespeare before? Is this the? You have, yeah.
Yeah. So after Hot Valley Nights, I spent the next 3 years going full time into schools doing Shakespeare plays.
Right. I didn't realise that was Shakespeare. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was mostly Shakespeare.
Right.
We did a few sort of moral based shows as well, where we cover cyberbullying, being a digital citizen, all that sort of stuff. But it was mostly educational plays about Shakespeare, and then in the final year as well, we got to do 1984, which was sick. But yeah, it mostly was Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, and Macbeth, and then we did touch on Othello a little bit there. But I found that incredibly rewarding. That theatre in education role is so much fun. I really considered it a boot camp as well, because I didn't have the privilege of going to an acting school. I went and got my business degree, and then I'd consider that school touring such a great opportunity to have to get up every day and do 3 shows regardless of how you're feeling or all of that kind of stuff. It was fantastic.
That's I never really thought about it like in that way, but it's getting your reps in, isn't it? That's the hardest thing, isn't it? When you're doing stuff like I find that with directing, right? Like you can practice writing as much as you like, but you only get those certain chances to direct, and so you don't get the reps in that you would like to if you were constantly doing it. So I mean, to be doing that for 3 years must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's the whole 10,000 hours thing as well.
Yeah.
You've just got to, you just had to get up and go and do the job and learn on the job. And if you didn't know what you're doing, it didn't mean that you could, like, you'd never be in a position where you would be able to just, not go and do a show. If you felt like you weren't quite hitting a mark or whatever, you'd get out on stage and you'd figure it out there. You'd figure it out in front of 150 people. And that is incredible. It's just a great opportunity, I think, to callous your mind a little bit to the things that seem incredibly scary until you've been flung in front of them. And then you realize, you're not made of glass. All of those opportunities just make you a better performer. Like coping with fear, I think, is something that a lot of actors struggle with. It's something that I certainly struggled with when I first sort of started. And coming out the other end of 3 years of that, you feel like you can, step in front of absolutely anyone and do the job of acting, because that's what you're always there to do. Stepping into an audition room, a lot of people bring their anxiety in with them, and having sat on the other side of the table a few times as well, you can sense it. You can really sense when an actor's bringing that in with them. When the job of an actor, I think, is to make the director and the writer and all the other creatives comfortable with their character. Letting them know that you're going to, what you're doing, and you're going to treat the character with the respect and give it the work that it deserves.
What is your process? Do you have a particular process that you use, or do you have a few that you sort of will use when you're going through that?
Yeah, I like to think of it as a bit of a toolbox. You sort of learn different things from different coaches, and that all these different techniques, you sort of pack them into your box. One day that tool's going to be useful. One day that tool's going to be useful. This one's not useful to me now, but there's no point why I can't, put it in the back and come back to it later. I've found techniques that at the start I thought were absolute nonsense and BS. Sometimes you've just got to have some time to sit with them and find the application for them. Let it sort of come to you. But yeah, most recently, what I've sort of been focusing on more than anything else is just simplifying it down. There's oodles of books and techniques and stuff, and I think it can really sort of bog an actor down, because you really can only be, well, me personally, I can only think of one thing at a time. So what I've been focusing on when I'm behind a camera, because I've been taping a lot more auditions lately, is just focusing on what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, whether it's the version of the character, it's the father that never loved me, the father that I need to convince to love me, simplifying it down like that for me. I've been quite happy with the results. Yeah,
simplification is, I find that as well from the other side of things. Like if you load up actors too much with too much stuff, it's the worst thing you can do. Like, just one thing, like if you're going to give a bit of direction on a different take or something, I mean, maybe just one thing is all you should give. It gets too confusing. You don't want to be thinking about stuff so much, right? Like,
yeah, and I think it makes it easier for it. An actor will quite happily, I think, over intellectualize it, and then when they're in front of the camera, you're seeing them thinking about their homework and not thinking about what's actually happening in the scene. Who they're looking at, what they're trying to do, and the camera will catch that. The camera catches no lies. You want to see behind the actual life occurring behind the eyes of the actor. If you load them up with, big grand ideas and not simple things that they can directly act upon. I totally get what you mean.
I think somebody, when I was when I was studying, I remember somebody talking about reactions, like acting's more reacting rather than acting. Like if you're concentrating on the person in front of you, like that's kind of what you should be doing. I don't know. I'm not an actor, but
that is a big thing. Yeah, acting is reacting. That's a bit of a cliche.
Is it right?
It's yeah. It is.
Uh,
It's important though. It's a cliche for a reason. It's been thrown around for so long.
That's the thing about cliches, But I mean, with just a little bit of acting that I did when I was studying directing, it was only when I was not thinking about myself that I felt like I was being natural. When I was just concentrating on the person across the room from me, I just
That's what that does. That's what having that sort of target does for the actor, is it just takes them out of their head, That's half the battle, is getting the actor out of their head, I've found.
Is there one particular school of acting that you would say that's your school, or are you sort of a...
No, not really. It's quite difficult because I haven't really had the opportunity to travel abroad and go and see and meet the people who write all of these books that you learn these things from. I guess I come from the Gareth Harris School of Acting or the Peter Rasmussen School of Acting, because they're the ones who taught me these techniques from these books. That being said, though, I've taken classes with so many different practitioners, which I think is the way to do it. You want to have a diverse toolbox, not just prescribed to one single school of acting.
I like the toolbox analogy. That's something that I've said as well with directing. The more techniques that you can just kind of pull out, just give them a go at different times. It's just different things work at different times, and things might work differently for different actors or types of performances. But the more that you can pull on, the better. The more that you can pull out of the toolbox, the better. With the Miscreants, I mean, it's so different from Othello. I remember Maxi Bond Man. That was one of the classic. That was one of the classic sketches.
Yeah, Maxi Bond Dad.
Maxi Bond Dad. Yeah, but it's just
Dad,
bizarre stuff, isn't it? Like,
yeah. So when we first started the Miscreants, I did kind of just want to do the most bizarre, ridiculous stuff, just to see what it was like. Just to sort of experiment, see how it made me feel, see what the audience thinks of it, and then come back and sort of tune it from there. Whereas these days, we do produce a lot more narrative-based stuff. It isn't just throw the most random crap at the wall and see what sticks anymore. But that's certainly where we started. Yeah, Maxi Bond Dad was absolutely absurd. Our productions these days, though, one of the last ones we did was called The Brewery, and it was it was about a family barbecue where they're celebrating. Oh goodness! Oh, this is terrible. I can't even remember the details. Here, let me pitch you another one. There's one of the ones from our last production. It was called Putt Putt Party. And it was about this. It was sort of a Frankenstein sort of story where this one fella who doesn't have a lot of friends. He works in a hospital. He takes a body home and he reanimates it, and it's his only friend. And then he's organised his own birthday party in his backyard. And throughout the story, what we see is our main character, whose name is Victor, sort of lose the need to have this friend. He sort of realizes that in order to to sort of have someone have a friendship like that, you need to be able to set them free. So at the end, he puts a scarf on him so he can't see the bolts that are sticking out of his neck, and then he sends him off to the valley and says, "You can go, you can go." Yeah. So yeah, we do like to match a bit of pathos in there as well.
Yeah, what better place to send him than to the valley? You know?
Yeah. Well, all the other guys were going out for a drink, and Creature, the Frankenstein character who I got to play, is like, "Can I go?" And Victor, finally realizing that, keeping somebody locked up like that just isn't healthy, and that's not what a friend is. Says, "Yeah, off you go," and then he can go and experience what it's like to be human, even though he's just reanimated.
That's really sweet. I read the original Frankenstein not too long ago, and it's such a sad story. Like you'd really feel sorry for the Frankenstein's monster,
Yeah. So he didn't ask for that.
No, but I really like that. I love that. Sort of a horrible situation or with comedy with that bit of sweetness as well.
Yeah.
I think that always makes for good comedy.
Yeah, I think you've got to work for it though, because that sweetness can be just like, it can just be so saccharine. It can be like it can easily be over the top. If you don't work for it and lay the groundwork for these characters, because these are absolutely terrible characters. Creature and Victor. Victor, absolutely nasty people. But again, not wanting to define anyone as a villain. People always do things for a reason. Otherwise, we'd have nowhere to go in character analysis if it's just like, they're just a villain. No, people do things for a reason.
The villains always make for the best characters, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so too. I think going back to Othello, it's going to be so fun playing this character. He feels so incredibly entitled to Desdemona, Roderigo. He feels incredibly entitled to Desdemona and can't believe that a black fella has stolen his lady. Absolutely can't believe it. It's gonna be an interesting ride with that one.
Yeah. I mean, that complexity of character. Like, if you're able to achieve that, I mean, you think about the best villains out there. Like, I always do love. I know that now it's all about anti-heroes and everything, but I do love the anti-hero. I mean, I'm not saying that he's the anti-hero, but if you've got that complexity of character, that's what it was.
Who would you pick for your favorite?
Villain or anti-hero?
Yeah.
Villain.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Best villain. I mean, for some reason, Darth Vader's just coming to mind. I feel like that's just the first thing that's came to my head. But
yeah.
Again, you do have the whole story with him where he does come back around. He is an anti-hero, isn't he? And you get that full circle of story, which is awesome with him. And he is so scary. I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a better choice. But who would you choose?
Well, maybe like Daniel Plainview.
He is the best. That's the best choice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Daniel. Yeah, what a film! But I mean, all the characters in
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, all the characters in that film. I mean, there's a lot of pretty bad despicable characters. Well, I mean, there's two very despicable characters in that film anyway.
Yeah.
Two great
Absolutely.
characters.
And then a child who has to bear the brunt of it.
Yeah. I did watch. I watched. It was like a top 10 villains thing on YouTube recently, and Daniel Day. I watched the scene with Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, where he's talking. He's talking to Leonardo DiCaprio's character about. It's his. Have you seen that film? It's talking about his father, right? So he killed Leonardo DiCaprio's father. But now Leonardo DiCaprio's like in his gang, right? Is that right? Yeah. I haven't. I don't think I've seen the whole film. I've just seen that scene. But then he's talking about this his father who he killed. Daniel Day-Lewis is talking about Leonardo DiCaprio's father who he killed, who was the only man that he truly respected, who gave him the better. But therefore he had to kill him. It's like such a scary psychopath.
Yeah. Oh man, such a fantastic. Yeah, he's so good at just disappearing into his characters. Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like you never see a scrap of himself in them. You're always just constantly seeing a character on screen. You know. Yeah.
It's complete transformation with every role. He's got to go and study how to make shoes for like 3 years before you see him again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what he did, didn't he? He disappeared off to Italy to become a cobbler. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Good on him. Yeah, well done. Good hobby.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have those sorts of actors around, you know. But
I think there's that sort of magical element, I think, to a lot of actors that just adds to their performance so much. You know, the stories that we tell about Daniel Day-Lewis, sort of, he's turned into more of a mythologue, you know. This guy that disappears and then will come back and do this absolutely incredible performance and blow all of our minds and then just disappear again because we know so little about him. It's something that I think Robert De Niro does incredibly well. He sort of, especially back in when he was doing, you know, like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, we just knew so little about him. We didn't know where all of his pain came from. You know, when we're looking into his eyes on camera, and he's, you know, at the very end of Taxi Driver, and he's got his fingers up to his forehead. You know, we have no backstory on who Robert De Niro is, and it just adds so much to it. And that's why he never talks about himself in interviews. He'll just go and sit in interviews.
Yeah,
won't say a word.
Yeah, I mean, There Will Be Blood's probably one of my favorite films, I reckon. I mean, it's such a fantastic film. And then you're going back to a film like Taxi Driver, which is again just amazing. You know, I was talking to Ollie in the last podcast that we did, talking about, you know, those films that don't get made anymore. Like, what are the sort of films that you'd like to see getting made, either in Australia or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think I'd like to go back to a sort of structure where instead of making one humongous, you know, Marvel epic for $100 million, we make 10 independent productions for 10 million each. I think that's the sort of structure I'd like to see experimented with a little bit more, giving smaller production companies an actual opportunity to create something interesting. I think the the current structure of just throwing $100 million at these humongous epics, and fair enough, they have an audience and people absolutely adore them. But you think about what that kind of funding could do for smaller companies that would be willing to tell more I guess, pointed stories to their own communities, you know. Finding stories for, giving those smaller companies an opportunity to find more interesting stories within more specific communities, I guess, you know, and just being like, okay, here's something for this particular part of the world, this particular, here's one for, rural Queensland, here's one for, metropolitan Sydney, and just finding those specific stories about specific people or even just ideas that are flourishing in these places.
Yeah, it's all got to come back to profitability, right? So you wonder why, the Americans have always been really good at telling their own stories, right? Like you could have, I don't know, just some kind of film like Field of Dreams from like, where's that set? Somewhere in middle America, right? Which is would have been a profitable film back in that time. I know. I mean, I guess it's in Australia. It's economies of scale. That's always been the issue with the Australian film industry. But that being said, then if you look at films that get exported overseas, like if we were looking to somewhere like Europe, like Scandinavian cop dramas, like why were they something that ended up being popular back 10 years ago whenever they were coming out on TV?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but
yeah. Well, I guess my perspective is, and I don't know, you can call me a dreamer, but we'll never find that profitability, that the stories that might be profitable for Australia unless we're willing to experiment and go out and find them. Yeah. And it means you're going to have some duds, and it just. I understand that we're in a landscape where we just can't afford to have duds.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I Australians don't seem to like watching Australian films a lot. Not much, anyway. But that being said, I think that I think that the standard of writing in Australia needs to be a lot better. If I think about an Australian film that I really loved, I think about something like The Proposition, which was a fantastic film, well-written film.
Yeah.
That's such an epic film. I mean, if you're going to use the Australian landscape and outback and history and everything to create like a fantastic story. I don't know. What's your favourite Australian film?
It's got to be somewhere between Cracker Jack and The Nugget, I think.
Right. Yeah.
I like those big, silly comedies.
Right.
Yeah. But also, what's the... I'm just thinking of the name. The one about the body in the barrel murders.
Oh, Snowtown.
Snowtown.
That's an amazing film. Yeah.
Snowtown absolutely blew me away. Yeah.
Such a horrible film.
It was absolutely incredible. It's nasty, yeah. I love that, though.
Yeah, I really love those films, too. That's one of those films that you just get to the end of it and you just feel so bad.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And it just keeps getting worse. You think you've hit that nice little denouement in the last, 10 minutes, and you're like, we're going to calm down now. It's like, nah. You don't get to rest. Not until the credits roll.
That's an incredible film. I mean, we do really depressing films well, I think,
Yeah.
Proposition's a very dark film as well. Yeah. I don't know. What about the theatre scene in Australia? How's it? I mean, I really don't know too much. I'll go to the theatre occasionally. I'll go to a musical. I love musicals.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, I think live performance in Australia has just sort of been I think it was just completely knocked on its ass, and I think it's done an incredible job of picking things back up again. Like if you look at the Tivoli, they've just released a whole new roster of shows that are coming out. Dave Sleswick, who is one of the owners and runners there, he's done such an incredible job of building all that back up. I was working there. I was working on the bar there just before COVID hit, and we were organising a show, and all of this COVID stuff was starting to gear up, and you could just see, the sort of the strain that is going to have on somebody, their entire livelihood and their business, and I think it was big. It was kind of risky taking on the Tivoli. And I really hope it all works out. I don't know exactly how things are panning out, but they've got such incredible artists that are coming up. I saw the poster released this morning, and it's all very exciting. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like it's been good to see that renaissance of those venues in Brisbane, like the music hall. The Triffid as well. I mean, purely musical.
Yeah.
I mean, they're music venues, obviously, but it's pretty cool.
The Princess Theatre as well. That's just been bought by the guys that are running the Tivoli, and they have got Dead Puppet Society in residence there. I think permanently, semi-permanently, but they do you know much about Dead Puppet Society?
Yeah. We've actually done on the agency side. We've done a few videos, like little tiny short doco style things with them. Yeah. They're
cool.
incredible.
Yeah, they're so good. They've done so well for themselves. It's fantastic to see a Brisbane company like that do something so unique, do it so well, and then just smash it internationally as well as locally. But I think people are eager to go out and watch live things now.
Yeah.
People, it was the kind of thing you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah.
So there is this thing within us that wants to go and sit or stand in a dark room with all of these other people, and there is some sort of connection formed there. There's community formed, and to enjoy incredible performers as well is something so inherent in us. We've been sitting around a campfire playing campfire songs and and telling stories to each other for so long, and there's a part there's a part of society that I think still needs that.
I really hope that heading into, I mean, obviously we've got these lockdowns going on at the moment, but hopefully they won't go on for too long. But I do hope that people get out there and there is that that like, I mean, I went and saw I went and saw the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra perform Vivaldi's Four Seasons a few months ago, and it was just incredible. And it was a packed house too. Like I think it was at Hamer Hall. 2,500 people, sold out, absolutely packed. It was such an incredible experience, and I feel personally motivated to get out there and to try to catch more shows. And for the first time in ages, I was like, I got to get to the cinema, like, like, there's a few good films at the moment out there.
What's on your list at the moment?
I want to see. I mentioned it in the last podcast. Actually, Nomadland. I think it's still screening at cinemas. I'd like to get out and see that at the cinema. I mean, this is the problem. This is why I was complaining about, these. Well, not this time. You were complaining this time around, but at the Marvel superhero films. Like, I'm so bored with those movies. I grew up on Marvel. I collected X-Men, like I was like a total Marvel comic book nerd, but I'm so bored with these movies now. I want to go and watch original stories. So, I mean, it looks fantastic. So I'm really keen to get along and see it in a cinema. Is there anything that's on your radar at the moment?
No, not at the moment. I'm keen to get into Mayor of Easttown though. I sort of missed that when it first came out. Have you seen that one?
No.
Kate Winslet?
No, I haven't seen it.
That's a series. I think it's either on Stan or Binge, but yeah, that's the one that I'm going to be getting into next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do need to get out to the cinema more. I need to go to Reading in Newmarket. They've got this. They've got Dolby Atmos there. I really want to go and check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. There's some great independent cinemas in Brisbane. Like, I think we're going to do a screening of Hot Valley Nights at New Farm Cinemas. Yeah, probably pretty soon.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
so,
very nice.
I mean, we did that. We did that originally. Did you go to the Cast and Crew screening?
Yeah. I made it along. Yeah.
I love that theatre. It's such a great cinema.
It's so good. Yeah, I always have such a good time there. I remember watching. This is a while ago now. Call Me by Your Name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that movie? That movie just tore my little heart out. I was sitting up the back with my popcorn. And by the end of that movie, I was just crying into an empty thing of popcorn, like such a sook. But I was just there by myself. I love going to the cinemas by myself. I think it's such a fun thing to do. Yeah. And these two old guys, as they were walking out of the cinema, was like, it's gonna be all right, mate.
I cry in movies all the time, man. I'm shocking. Hey, yeah.
Yeah. I'm such a sook.
I love
Nothing
it.
got me like Red Dog, but...
Red Dog, yeah, excellent.
Red Dog.
Excellent. Look, mate, we probably would wrap it up.
Yeah.
But thanks for today. That's been awesome. I mean, if people are in Cairns and they want to catch Othello, so when will that be? When can they catch that?
Yeah, tickets will be releasing in the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes peeled on the Queensland Theatre Facebook page. Alternatively, you can go straight to the venue. Just Google Boom Bajar Performance Centre, Cairns, and you'll be able to find tickets there.
Yeah, cool, excellent. All right, we'll put links below, and we'll put links to any Miscreants links or anything else. Yeah. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook is probably the best ways to keep up on our live shows. Keep your eyes peeled in that space as well. Yeah, cool, excellent, and everybody can catch Constable Jeff Purple too on our YouTube channel as of in a couple of hours. So check out that as well. Excellent. Alrighty, thanks so much, Matt.
No worries. Thanks, Michael. It's always great to chat.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. I'll see you.
Know that the ride or die. I keep well by my seat. Know that the ride or die. I keep well by my seat. We hustle, what's the line? Well by my seat. Know that the ride or die. My name came up a lot of sounds. More when I was not around. Certain people that I